Welcome to another episode of Sawdust Nation Podcast, episode 65. And here with me today, we have Nick from MPG Creations, Nap from Nap Snotty Works LLC, and myself, Josh, from North Country Woodworking. Man, we have a great episode for you today. We got some huge news to spring upon you, and we're going to wait until a little bit later for that, though. And right now, Nick is going to go ahead and try for sponsors.
That's right. I want to thank PWN CNC for making this episode possible and many others possible. So if you're looking for those dust boots for your CNC machine and or toe clamps, what have you, check them out, PWNCNC.com. Use promo code Sawdust Nation to get 10% off your order. And Orca Abrasives, they don't sponsor us, but if you want some BA sandpaper, check them out, Orca Abrasives online. At Orca Abrasives on Instagram, and use promo code SawdustNation10 to get that 10% off. Another sponsor I want to thank is Jtechphotonics. Thank you so much for supporting us for so long. And last but not least, that Totalboats, totes my goats, that boats, holy cow, they got the epoxy wonders. That wood filler, the thriller. Anyway, long story short, get in that boat, that Totalboat. Check them out on Totalboat.com or at Totalboat on your big IG. And if you want that 10% off promo code, it is going to give it to you later if you call me. No, you got to slide into our DMs to get that one. So, got to earn it. But we will give it to you. Got to message us. Anyway, that's all we got for sponsor. Oh, wait. Patrons. Thank you, guys. You guys are doing an amazing job. We sent out some gifts. Nap sent out some gifts. Josh sent out some gifts.
Small tokens of our appreciation.
Of appreciation or depreciation, whichever. And anyway, long story short, you guys posted them up, pictures on the Instagram, and we love seeing you guys repping that Sawdust Nation podcast. So keep it up.
Now, did you want to announce anything, or is that going to be later?
You know what? I probably could do it now, just because it goes very well with that promo code as well. Because 10% off of this particular thing that Daniel over at PWN CNC has just released for his pre-orders is the big upgrade spindle sets for all of our CNC users out there. And yes, I mean pretty all hobbyist CNCs, from the XCarve to the Shapeoko, the Onefinity. There's some plug and play options with the Onefinity where you can control spindle speeds right off the gate. There's all sorts of stuff as far as the hobby CNCs are concerned. Some things that he's offering with these are the 0.8 kilowatt, which is roughly the size of a Makita router. He's got the 1.5 kilowatt, which is a 65 millimeter. And then the 2.2, which is roughly 3 Makita routers put together. So talking in weight here. So even if you have a belt-driven CNC that's Z-axis included, you will have a spindle that you can mount on your CNC. So if you haven't been to Daniel's website at PWNCNC.com, you can see a lot of the specifics there. But I'm going to tell you what, his prices are super competitive. If you've ever looked at anything on Amazon or anything like that, first and foremost, yes, it may be cheaper, quote unquote, in Amazon, but after all the add-ons and things you need to even get up and running, it is definitely quite the deal. And the biggest portion of that deal is the customer service. So I'm going to tell you what, I don't know if you've ever had to call China before, but I've called China. And that's a task all in itself. But why not buy American and have that American-made spindle and all those things, or American-developed spindle, I guess would be more likely the reference there. But he has his own VFD. Everything's programmed. For those who know what VFD is, I'm pretty sure it's a variable frequency device, which controls the spindle. It's got power cables. It's got a chiller that comes with it. It's got the kit and caboodle. Go ahead and get to his site and take a look. Just know that your promo code does work with it. So the price you see, take 10% off. And it's even more, more competitive with those that are out there that you've seen. But yeah, so that's what he's got coming out. 5 to 8 weeks, he'll start sending orders out. It is definitely the upgrade you want. I already have a spindle, and I'll tell you what, it's way better than a router. There's so many things that go with it. We can talk a little bit about what goes with a spindle versus a router a little bit later. But Josh, getting back to you, sir, what's going on in your shop?
Well, a lot, actually. I got working with a lot of different types of wood, softwood, hardwood, doing a lot of lasering on those particular pieces. Long story short, since we talked last week, I actually have done 2 of the Army boards that I was talking about. Here's the finished one that's going out the door. They wanted it aged, so we gave them aged. And for those that are not seeing what I'm holding up right now, if you become a Patreon, you get to see all this. But moving on, I got 2 of those boards. The reason why is early in the conversation with my client, they came in and they wanted to change some verbiage that was on the right-hand side. And then later on, they sent a logo with the same verbiage, and they kind of mixed words a little bit. So there was a misunderstanding, and I had to redo it. But we got the board right, and it's going to be going out hopefully tomorrow around 4 o'clock. Also got a last-minute order. It's going to be the military working dog coin that I've done in the past, but about half the size, and we're putting name and dates in the mouth. No picture frame this time. But it's a similar thing. The only difference is I'm not actually doing it on the CNC. I'm doing it right on the laser engraver and doing the same process. So what I'm trying to do, if you haven't, caught on already, I know Nick's struggling over there, but just kidding, man. I'm trying to see which process works better. The CNC is very capable. The laser is very capable. And much like Nick and Nap have done already, I'm trying to see what is worth going on the CNC or the laser. There are projects that are definitely laser bound because it's just quicker, cleaner, and smaller detail is achievable on it. And there are other projects where there's no doubt about it, it's going to go on to the CNC. Now, the limiting factor for me personally is the cut space on the Glowforge. Now, it does have a pass-through, which is nice. The width of the cut is where, I have trouble. With these boards, I wanted them exactly 2 feet, but about 23 inches is about the max I could fit in there comfortably without messing anything up. So that's what these boards are currently going to be sitting at. That should be done by tomorrow for the military working dog project. I'm just doing a little bit of painting and getting that set up. I did this particular one on the laser because the name and the date is fairly small in the mouth because it is a 9-inch piece. So it's not that big, and I wanted to make sure everything looked good. Moving on, let's see. I did the Mickey Mouse home sign as well. That is staying, sitting in the garage drying. I'll be finishing that tomorrow, and then it'll be ready for pickup within the next day or so. I'll be doing some cornhole boards here very shortly. I have the wood for them. I just haven't chopped them up and built that yet. And then I have some odds and ends I'm trying to accomplish as well. I'm trying to do the Incra box jig setup. Have everything out of the box. I started to do it, but then I got sidetracked and started on other projects. I don't need it right away, so it's not imperative. Business is good. Keep getting projects here and there, and always something new and different going on. So I did make quite a few mistakes this last week, and a lot of them could have been avoided if I slowed down a little bit, talked to the client just a little bit more. Just a reminder that sometimes you can get ahead of yourself, and it can cost you. Yeah, simple things, I probably could have got away with, but I restarted just because it didn't look right, and I wasn't going to give out a product like that.
Sometimes you just gotta restart.
Well,
it's just there's a point of no return.
Example is the military working dog coin. Is I had it painted, I was about to seal it, and I realized that I didn't do where it actually engraved. On the last one, I painted that black, and then the top was gray. There's a tooth that's yellow, and so on and so on. But it was just the engraved look, and it wasn't dark enough. It didn't look very clean, especially because everything else was painted. So I threw it under the belt sander, refinished it, repainted it, put some aura mask on there, threw it in the laser, and I did it right. Looks much better.
How much you charge for one of them things, man? Or have you charged?
Well, for the full size, which is about, I think it's like 17 inches tall, I charged $180 for that one, and about half price for this one. So I basically just broke it down the middle, and they wanted a rush fee, so I'm making about $100 or so off this one. It's a lot of detail, but it's not that long when it goes into the laser. It takes a lot less time to cut. But to be fair, the last time I cut one of these on the CNC, it was without the upgrades, and now I can actually produce a lot faster too. But this since the writing is so small in the detail, I didn't want to risk chipping one of the letters out or anything with a bit. So I definitely went with the laser. That's about it. Lessons learned, and had to redo some projects, but I survived and I have better products because of it. With that, that's enough of me talking. We're going to send it off to Nick and let him tell us what's happening in his shop.
Well, a lot of stuff has been going on in my shop, just like everybody else. I've been busy, been having a lot of last minute. I don't know what's going on. It's like rush order central right now. It's like, hey, if you're a supervisor and somebody's leaving and you want to get them a gift, don't wait till the week before. Kind of pre-order something. That'll help out the people making your stuff. If you're going to go that route, obviously. I mean, if you're just going to get them, if they're the kind of guy that just likes a bottle of liquor, then liquor stores always got them in stock. But if you want that bottle laser etched, you might have to buy that bottle a little early. But whatever, what have you. I've been working on flags, and I mean, I don't typically do too many flags, but I've been doing a lot of flags the past week and a half.
And tabs too, right?
Oh yeah, the tab style plaques. I just got another order on my. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. I just got another order on my Etsy today for another one. So I mean, Etsy's doing well. I've been doing a lot of like manual builds. I've got another memory box to do for some cop. I'm waiting on a big job to come through. I don't have any specifics on it yet, or I can't release any specifics on it yet, but everything is just ready and waiting for the payout. So once the monies are paid out, then I'll buy the materials and start on that. Other than that, though, man, I'm stoked about this whole PWN CNC deal. Oh, yeah, by the way, I got all my fixtures in for the hoses. All those.
Yeah, the mag locks.
Yeah, for all my hose. So the biggest deal I'd have to say is if you own a DeWalt planer, what's it, the 733 or whatever it is? Is that what it is?
It's whatever one with the twist collar on it, yeah.
Yeah, so if you own a DeWalt planer, and that thing blows chips everywhere, so you need to have a dust hose on there going into a bag. You probably don't even need your dust collector on because it pumps so much air out. I turn my dust collector on and I hook up the hose. Every time I hook up the hose to the to the planer, it takes like 5 minutes to unscrew the clamp and then pull it off of whatever it's on and then put it on it's just a waste of time. It's a pain in the rear end. So Daniel has this mag lock system and it's adapted to the planers. So it just slides right on, locks into place, and now all I have to do is put a clamp around the hose on the male or the female, and I can't remember which end it was, but like anytime I need to change fittings or change that hose, I just pull it off because it's magnetic, and then bring it to the next tool, pop it right on. There's no fiddling with any screws or anything like that. So I absolutely love that. And I even have it set up to where my CNC dust boot is like that as well. So
what's in your shop that is left? I mean, what else are you gonna put mag locks on, or are you?
So I bought one. I didn't apply it yet, but I bought one for the saw stop. So it's adapted to the saw stop, so the hose will go on there. I think everything. I don't have one for my joiner, but I don't really use a dust collection for the joiner just because.
So it puts it in a pile for you, so it's like not really that hard.
Yeah, it's not like blowing it everywhere.
I threw a fitting on there so I can use my dust collection early on. And even with my dust collection, it would get it out pretty good. But I took off that fitting and let it just pile, and it doesn't build up in there at all. Easy to pick up. It's actually literally easier to get the hose and just suck it up real quick and call it a day.
Yeah, so that's really all that's got going on in my shop. Nothing super in depth, but if you're interested and like you're tired, like if you have this planer and you know how much of a pain in the rear it is to get to move fixtures on your 4-inch hoses, Give it a shot, man. I'll tell you what, you will not be disappointed. It might be expensive up front, but it's going to save you a ton of time, especially when that time counts. Like me, I get roughly 3 hours a night in the shop. That's from 8 o'clock to 11, 11:30, something like that. And that's if my kids fall asleep. So every minute counts to me because I need that time to do what I got to do. And if I'm messing around with a hose trying to get the clamp off, then it's just a waste of my time. I'm over here. What?
Said those hose.
Well, no, he has a good point. Time wasted on hose is not money made.
Yeah, well.
Money spent, but.
All right. Hey, so Nap, what do you got going on in your shop, man? I spoke way too long.
Dude, I feel like it's never ending, but I love it. Like, so first and foremost, if you've been following me on IG, which actually it seems a majority of people have, because I've been getting messages and stuff from people like saying like how it looks and whatnot, but I've been making this chest. And, I mentioned in my story yesterday that Nick has been helping me out design-wise. I've been bouncing questions off of him, whether it's annoying him or not. I value his opinion greatly as far as how he's constructed his in the past. So I wanted to get some insights. But we're rocking and rolling. I got the lid on yesterday. I flush trimmed it this afternoon. I cut the lid off, which, if you don't know, that's probably one of the most sketchy operations, especially when it's a chest that's 30 inches, long by
30-inch
tall.
chest.
Yeah, 30-inch chest, dog. And, it's just sketchy at best, like, period. Like, when you're doing it, you're hoping you get a straight line. You're hoping you keep it up against the fence enough. But I'll tell you what, the saw stop made it a million times easier. Had I done this on my DeWalt table saw, I probably would have destroyed the box. So I'm glad I made my purchase on my saw stop a while back. So that's going on. This process I'm at now is for any box joints that you've ever done. So I use the Incra iBox jig, and I don't know what happened, but 3 of the corners lined up perfect, but one corner was kind of off. So I had to do some chisel work. So I got to do some repair and some TLC type stuff to make it look nice. And it still looks nice regardless because it's box joints. I mean, what box joints don't look good when it's walnut and maple contrasting. But then I got to do a laser logo on the top. I have to cork board and felt the top, flock the whole inside of the box, make a divider and some trays and some things. But that job's coming along really well. The flocking, I think, is the last part that's going to take the most time, just because, as Nick pointed out, because of how big it is, you'll have to probably do half at a time. So that way I don't, have the adhesive set on me in the middle of doing it. So that's the next step. And I'm kind of nervous because I've never done it. So I'm going to do a couple test runs before I do the real thing. And then I've got, I got a bunch of stuff on my table back here. But mid-October, I have my very, very first shadow box due. I'm still nervous about that, but I think after I finish this chest and do the felt on the corkboard, I think it's going to be a little easier than I anticipate. I do have an oversized, 5-inch coin. This thing is massive, and actually, I'm going to bring it up.
If you think 5 inches is oversized.
So this is the coin they want me to put in there. That thing is freaking huge, okay, and it's heavy. So I'm going to have to make some kind of inlay inside the cork. That's a whole nother story for when I eventually put it on Instagram. So follow me more, and you'll get to see the process.
We're messing with cork now. Have you tried soaking the cork?
I feel like there's something. No, not even going to go there.
All right. Nope. Well, I didn't. Whatever. Cork soaker.
I know where you were going with that, and I'm just going to leave it be.
Backpedal and move on.
But this coin. No BS, okay? This coin, if I threw this on the scale, I'm pretty sure this thing would weigh at least 1.5 pounds. Just this coin alone. It's huge, it's dense, and it's just something he wanted in there. So I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I'll figure it out. I'm going to figure it out. And if I need help, I got Nick right down the road. Hey, Nick, help.
Made out of vibranium, we got you.
So that's due mid-October, or first week of October, really. And then I just got hit up for some quarterly awards for 37 Training Wing, 15 of them to be exact. I'm pretty excited about that because I'm going to do my Jarvis dither with my laser with a logo that they have. So it's going to be cut a shape out, throw it on a laser, let it do its thing, $65 a pop, call it a day. What else do I have? I have 2 hat presses. I keep looking back because I have stuff on the thing that reminds me what I actually have going on. I have 2 hat presses. One that the person just finally got the coins to me for, but no rush. Another one that's due by the end of the month, both walnut. And then another walnut press that's due the second week of October, or first week in November, sorry. So if that says anything, I've already got jobs planned all the way out into November, which is kind of intense. But in the midst of all this, I finally get to catch up on some things, some not IOU projects, but like favor projects for some folks that ask, like, hey, when you got time. So I actually, like, in the middle of waiting, I'll be able to go throw something on the CNC, 3D carve some stuff, finish it, because a lot of it is design it, piece of wood, 3D carve, sand anything crazy, finish it. But 3D carving takes forever. So I can't have my machine tied up for 4 or 5 hours at a time doing a carve when I have other things to carve that are quick and easy.
You could if you had 2 machines, just saying.
You're right, but I don't have any room for that. So
you could always put the laser inside the house and another CNC outside.
If you want me to get a divorce, let's do that.
I'll move in with you, and we'll have...
You're going to be whispering sweet nothings into my ear like, yes, watch it laser.
Dude, like, could you imagine, like, we'd have, like, an entire room dedicated to CNCs. We'd have the laser room, which is a whole bunch of, like, giant lasers in there. Like, there'd be, like, no furniture or anything. Maybe a chair and a desk so we could do some design, but and then the garage would be all, like, woodworking tools.
Honestly, so it's crazy you talk about that, but when I move, I'm pretty sure I'm moving to Abilene, Texas. So for those of you who don't know, that's only a few hours from where I'm at now, a couple hours from where I'm at now. And we've already been looking at houses. They have 30 by 30 foot shops already pre-built on certain properties. We're looking at those at this moment because I'm 95% sure that's where I'm going.
How big's your garage?
It's a 2-car. So I would assume it's like, 18 by something? But just know I'll be able to fit quite a bit more in the next shop, at which point I'll probably look at getting a second CNC. But that'll probably be like an Axiom or something.
For those of you that are not like a patron and can't see what's going on, Josh is shaking his head, and it's just getting worse.
Okay, but here's the thing. In Texas, there's plenty of room. Where Josh is at, there's apparently not that much room. I'm sorry, Josh. Keep drinking your beer. I'm sorry making you drink more. But to finish it all off, I do have something sitting here. I have another hat case just waiting to be finished. Customer hasn't brought me this stuff yet, and honestly, I'm tired. It's not like I'm tired of reminding him, but there comes a point where it's like, okay, listen, I give you reminders, and then once you get it to me, you get it to me. But I think my final reminder is going to be, in about a couple weeks or so, like, hey, I got your stuff sitting here. I need to finish this because you already paid for it. So please bring me your stuff so I can finish it. But if you're not aware of how you should keep track of these things, so I'm holding in my hand here, and those are our patrons. I got a book. It's my planner, if you will. So when you have a bunch of jobs, and we talked about this thing a podcast or 2 ago about keeping track of things, I'm the type of person who needs to write things down. Had I not written all this stuff down, I wouldn't be able to plan accordingly. And I'm going to tell you what, between this chest and any of the makeup stuff, I have a whole week where I'm just working the chest and the makeup stuff. And I definitely would say get some kind of organization in your life because it gets crazy sometimes.
Crazy, man. Totally crazy.
But yeah, that's really all that's going on in my shop. I know I went on something a little more than just what's going on in my shop, but
I want to talk about something if we got the time. Do we have the time, Josh? I know we haven't really talked too much about making flags since AJ departed, because AJ was always making flags, but I wanted to call out a few things and at least highlight a few things that I think are pretty much, I don't want to say game changers, but definitely features that are desirable on flags now that I see and that I've actually started putting into my flags that I make. Because don't get me wrong, flags are great and fun to make and easy to make, but at the end of the day, it's not like something I make every day. So I'm not like a flag guru like AJ is.
Aficionado.
Yeah. I don't know if you like, I'm calling out Mike from Veteran Woodco. I noticed this on his flags first. He chamfers everything, which at first I was like, man, like personally, I'm thinking this is a pain in the butt to go ahead and chamfer everything and then worry about glue squeeze out. Like paint it, right? Glue it up and then worry about squeeze out, ruin your paint job. That was my thought. I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to do this. And then I started like thinking about it. And I'm like, if I do it on a hardwood flag, one without paint, then I don't have to worry about the paint getting all jacked up. Last week I made 2, I think. I made a smaller one and I made a larger one. And I got to tell you, it makes all the difference. If you chamfer it doesn't even have to be a huge chamfer. Just give it a little depth. I like the first flag so much that I made on like Friday night that I went to Woodcraft on Saturday. Nap, did we go to Woodcraft on Saturday or Sunday?
We went Saturday.
Well, anyway, I went to Woodcraft Saturday and I picked up curly maple and, well, I think I already had curly maple. I picked up curly walnut. I made this flag for myself. I never make anything for myself, but I wanted to do it just because I wanted to I liked the last flag so much that I made for somebody else. Are there any other features on these flags that you guys think are like definite like must-haves on flags?
I have one.
Yeah, what's it?
Frames. I don't know if you said that because my kid came in here, but I'm gonna tell you what, folks. Like the chamfers are cool, and I honestly tactfully acquired / used from Mike from Better Workout also because I saw he did the chamfers, I did on my stripes. But the one thing that I think adds a lot of, I don't know, what is it? Not pizzazz, but just something nice as a border or a frame. I did a cherry carved flag, and I was like, yeah, it looks cool and everything, but if I put a frame on this, it's going to look that much nicer. I put a walnut frame on it, and I'm going to tell you what, it's night and day difference for any flag if you put a frame on it, I think, personally. It doesn't have, saying...
I personally, it depends on the flag. I don't think all flags should have the frame on it. Some flags stand alone just fine. It really depends. The chamfer looks great, Nick. I saw that on your flag, and I knew exactly where you got it from because we talked about it before. I mean, really, flags, there's 1,000 different ways you could do them, and there's all a bunch of little details you could throw in them. But to make them look good, sometimes, giving them that little chamfer, depending on the project, that frame, it can make and break the difference for sure. I know personally when I'm doing a flag coin holder, challenge coin holder, putting a frame around it makes sense to me. It makes it look better because without it, it
kind of looks
not complete. Yeah, looks weird.
It looks half
made.
It doesn't look like a completed piece. And I've done those. I've done them without the frame, but once I started doing them with the frame, I'm going to continue doing them, and that's what I'm referring to as some flags. You definitely, but I definitely enjoy the look of what Nick did. Beautiful, so much character in that flag. It'd be kind of hard to do on a wavy.
No, honestly, the chamfers you wouldn't be able to do with a wavy flag. Well, I mean, you might.
The edges.
There's no way. I mean, you could hand carve them. You could hand carve them with a chisel.
No, thank you.
Yeah, but it wouldn't look right because the whole point of the wavy flag is to look like it's a real flag waving.
Well, long story short, you could make though a hardwood wavy flag. I've seen some, and they're beautiful. It's just if you jack it up, it's not going to be like $60 from the Home Depot. It's going to be like a couple $100 worth of wood. So.
Yeah, you're
okay. So now, when you talk about flags, now, like you said, there's 100 different ways to make flags, and I've been a part of this this flag making group on Facebook because I was like, whatever, I'm gonna join it, see what they what they do, and believe me, there is a lot of different ways to make flags, and I've seen some pretty cool stuff. But your thoughts: painted, carved, or dremeled stars?
So here's what I want: carved, but carved out, not into the flag, but that raised would be legit.
Like 3D?
3D. Raised stars.
3D would look good. I don't like the little lasered out ones they throw on top and they just glue on top. I like either carved or your idea of having like the 3D like carved would look good, but it'd be hard to do. I mean, if you do bulk, you could
So
be worth it, but
you could
and layout,
you could do it, but it wouldn't be so. For one, you would need to start with a large block of wood because you're gonna and getting everything lined up is a lot harder with the stars. But if you did it with your CNC machine, which is not the same thing, by no means is it the same thing as doing it by hand like AJ does his by hand. But and what's the other one? There's another one. The guy makes like hanging. Yeah, those are raised stars. Nap showing us.
So I did raise stars actually, and they're
$1 in the spare bucket.
I just think CNC's nice, but at the end of the day, that hand carved stuff I appreciate more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So. All right. So the hand carved stuff. Okay, I know I'm asking all the questions right now, but you keep bringing stuff up, and I saw something on Facebook. Good old Facebook. If it's on Facebook, must be true, right? Dude actually asked a really good question. So a lot of people put a lot of stuff out there say it's handmade, right? And when they say it's handmade, they say, well, CNC isn't handmade, or putting it through all these tools isn't handmade. So I know my thoughts. What are y'all's thoughts on that whole handmade versus not handmade, whatever nonsense that people are trying to put out there? Nick's like, I'm done with this.
So I believe we've had this conversation on here before, but at the time I didn't have a CNC. At least I don't think I did. In the beginning, starting out, I mean, basic tools and stuff. If someone would have said, hey, is it handmade with CNC? I would have said no. But as I got further into this community and start understanding what went into CNC and then got my own and started learning, it is. It definitely is handmade regardless of how you get to the end product. Because speaking from experience now and, a little bit of know-how, long story short, that wood doesn't glue itself. It doesn't sand itself. It doesn't finish itself. You're along with it the entire time. When the CNC makes a mistake because you forgot to delete a circle, or you have a line running through it because it jumped or the piece moved or what have you, you're going to be, painting it, sanding it. You're going to be doing everything that someone without a CNC is doing, with the exception of spending a lot of time completing a pattern or, carving. Because that's what it is. Our machines are expensive, planers, CNCs, lasers, what have you. All that is a faster way to achieve what someone could do by hand. Now, I don't think, and I'm going to say think because I'm not sure, the laser and some of the things that CNCs can do that is not achievable by hand. But I'm sure there's someone out there that could prove me wrong because there are really gifted individuals out there. Long story short, though, CNC work, laser work, it's all handmade. If it's not like you just buy a piece of wood, you throw it down and it's finished. You spend time. I mean, I've spent an hour out there just watching my CNC, making sure it was going right. And I've stopped it, restarted the carve because of different issues. But yeah, I just because you're using a machine to achieve an outcome doesn't mean that you didn't put no work in it. And I think that's what people are asking when they said if it's handmade or not. They think because you have a machine help you, it's not. It's less work, and it might be at some level, but it definitely isn't entirely true. Yes, it's all handmade. Okay, Nick, you've passed the ball, but guess what? It's bouncing back.
All right, so I don't think everything is handmade. However, caveats. Josh said wood doesn't finish itself, right? But Nick does. Anyway, long story short,
I knew it. I knew when I said it. If it didn't happen then, it was going to happen later.
So let's put it this way. Everybody, if you run a CNC machine or a laser, if you're a handcraft, like a craftsman, like master craftsman, you do wood chisels, You don't use a router for your box joints, or you don't use you're doing dovetails by hand. You all have a skill that was learned and through trial and error. Some of these skills are easier to learn than others, just like different tools in our shop are easier to use than others sometimes, with more, with more experience and more know-how. In the end, everything made, I guess you could say, is it could be handmade, because made by hand doesn't necessarily mean that your hands chiseled it out, but it still means that you used your hands to type in that code to figure, because you knew like how deep something needed to be on a, whether it be CNC, or you used your hands and used that time to develop your skill at whatever you're doing. It just doesn't, you just can't just like wake up one day and do it. It doesn't happen unless you grow up in a community where, like, say your dad runs a CNC mill, or your dad's a master craftsman, you know.
Even then, you're learning.
Yeah, even then, you're still developing. So when people bust other people's stones for running a CNC machine because it's not handmade, whatever, bro. Sorry. I'm sorry we can't all spend 1,000 hours to learn how to carve a perfect dovetail, but we still want to achieve the same results. For some of us, it's more economical to do it the way we do it. But there are people out there. There's different markets. We're not in the same markets as everybody else. Like, if you want,
not by any means.
If like you want handcrafted credenza from like an Amish community that built the furniture, it's going to cost you a lot more, because they do a lot more work than a factory, or even a company that makes, let's say it was a custom credenza. Even if it's a company and all you're using is power tools, it's going to cost you a lot more money, because it's time that you're paying for and experience that you're paying for. So I don't know, man. I just get upset when people start dividing us, because we shouldn't be dividing. We should be uplifting, and we should be accepting everybody. Now, I have a bias, I had an unconscious bias. It's now an implicit bias on pine, because I can't stand pine. However, I realize it's not for me, but I'm not going to bust your stones because you made a flag out of pine. Like, good for you, bro. That's awesome. Like, now, if you can make a pine flag look phenomenal, and there's proof out there because AJ Camarado does it every day, you would never know. You'd never know that his stuff is construction lumber. Never know it by looking at it. No, go look at his flags on at Crafted NJ. You'd have no idea.
Better yet, when you're checking out his page, start from the beginning and start scrolling up, because you're going to see a progression there that is just astounding.
Yep. You'll see his skill just develop, his muscle memory, and his just the nuances in his flags, the paint jobs, everything from start to finish. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but this was when we're talking about we started off talking about flags and we moved into like the handcrafted thing, but it's all good. The important thing is you're out there and you're doing something and you're making something, because God knows and I don't know if it's like every man in the world or every human being in the world has a need to create, has a need to do something and make something out of other things, or make something out of nothing. So that's what we do.
Part of the human condition, man.
Yep.
That's how we got where we are now.
So the reason why I like kind of like say something too, or why I brought that up though, was just because like we're all good at something. Something is like we pick certain things up.
I'm good at finishing.
And other things, I bet you are. And like, even when you look at CNC work, right? And this is where like my biggest like argument is with those that say, "Oh, handcrafted." First of all, my hands work the mouse, that work the code, that work this, that, like kind of Nick was talking about earlier. You still there's still a bunch of stuff that goes into anything. But if you look at some people's CNC work when they first start out, and I'll put myself on blast, my CNC work when I was first starting out was trash. Like you could see the tool marks. Like I didn't know how to do like a final finishing pass to take away tool marks. Nothing was really that smooth. It was all rough. I was also using pine, which again, I also have the same bias as Nick. I don't use pine for anything unless it's asked for by the customer. But yeah, AJ at Craft Ninja makes pine look amazing. And, you know, I don't know. It's just like, it doesn't matter what skill you have. Everyone starts somewhere. Everyone is crappy at something at some point, and then they perfect their craft. And that's what we're doing, and hope everyone else is trying to achieve is perfect what craft that they're good at. You know, I mean, 'cause we're all garage hobbyists, for Christ's sake, / business owners.
We all brought really good points to the table, but I think the difference here is we're production shops. We are making things, producing things to get them out of our shop and make money, because we love woodworking and we love providing products to people and seeing our work out there. Now, someone that's, doing dovetails by hand and, taking that time to get all those fine details, they're not necessarily a production shop. There's no way you can be a production shop and get a project done within a week or two and get it out the door, especially like that. So there's a difference there. We're using different tools to make what our goals happen. I know I didn't start off that way or that mindset, but that's what we are now. Because if you listen to this podcast long enough, we're talking about projects in and out, in and out, in and out. And like sometimes it's a couple of days, sometimes it's a couple of weeks, sometimes it's a month. But some of these projects, if you truly went to the handmade argument and said they use nothing but traditional planes and tools and stuff like that, we would never be able to produce the amount of stuff in the time we do to get it out of the shop.
Nope.
So it really depends on what your shop is doing. And when I say everything is handmade, if your hand's touching it, Nick, no. If your hand's touching it and you're, helping that wood transform into a finished project.
That's right.
Why would you lead into that? What are you doing?
No, I got my hands on my wood, and I'm about to finish.
Yep.
And
I'm about to transform this wood.
Anyway, you're essentially you're hand making that item. It's just a basic argument. It's going back to the basics. If you want to go between a traditional woodworker, modern, I forget there's different tiers literally, but and then there's the mid tier, which works with both. It really depends on what you're doing with your shop and what you're trying to do.
I think staying in the middle of it's the best of both worlds. I mean, there's times I'll break out hand tools. You need to have like positive control over something that a power tool is just not going to do.
For example, this chest I'm making, I used the Incra iBox jig on a table saw, right? And it was great. But for some reason, one corner just didn't line up completely right. What did I have to do? Well, it was my choice between either the small little bandsaw that I have, which was a negative, or chisels. I broke out the chisels and I chiseled out the finger joints. Now, did it, make a little extra space that I'm going to have to fix? Yes, of course it did. But at the end of the day, I still knew how to use a set of chisels to make it work.
You still got to know how to sharpen the chisels.
So you got traditional tools, the hybrid woodworker, and the power tools. We all think all three of us fall into that hybrid. We work with kind of both. We have planes, we have chisels. We do stuff by hand when we can. But long story short, you're going to do whatever benefits your shop and what, you're kind of leading toward. Don't get on someone because they're using a CNC. They're still out there they're making sawdust. It should never become an issue like that. If you're that bent out of shape because someone's using a machine, then maybe you should be talking to that person.
And realistically, what is it we say? Makers are going to make. It doesn't matter what kind of maker you are. You're going to make something, whether it's with a CNC or hand tools. You're making something.
Well, I mean, if you just have a crappy attitude, you're definitely going to make a lot of people mad.
This is true.
But is that handmade?
Oh, it is handmade. When I slap upside the head, I mean, what?
Ow.
But yeah, I didn't mean to get us all on like soapbox and stuff, but that particular I don't comment on Facebook, and I didn't even comment on this individual's post. It actually does kind of irk me, kind of like Nick was saying, like, when people say, "Oh, it's not handmade because you use CNC." I was like, "Oh, okay. So why don't you go ahead and use this machine that costs X amount of dollars with the software that costs X amount of dollars?"
So,
People don't get it.
so I got into an argument on Facebook
Of
with a
course you
guy.
did. Go
This was a
figure.
while ago.
You?
Josh remembers this. I commented on
Is this
something.
on Marketplace?
Yeah. So if you don't know, some of you listeners probably have been approached by me on Facebook Marketplace asking to buy your equipment or asking to trade for your equipment. And if you decline, or even if you accept, I tell you about the podcast. It's just a way for me to spark conversation and get it out there, right? I'm not like cold calling people saying, "Hey, see this podcast." But I am at the same time, in the market for specific tools. And when I go and talk to people, it comes up because I talk about what they make. They talk about what I make. And I had an individual say, he was like saying something like, "I make all my stuff by hand. I don't punch buttons like you CNC guys do." Right. And I was just kind of like, you know what, man? That's why you gotta be hurtful, Like, I'm sorry, your cornhole boards.
You didn't say that.
No offense, but like sometimes people make cornhole boards and stuff like that. I make cornhole boards, but if that's people in glass houses don't throw stones. Or shouldn't throw stones.
Look, man, if you're out there in the garage and you're doing something, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're doing more than a lot of people.
Yeah, but
it doesn't matter. But moving on, do we want to talk about the difference between air and cool spindles, or do we wrap this one up?
I mean, we could do it real quick if you really want to. I mean, there's not really a whole lot to it, is there?
Well, I mean, like, it's like anything. You could dive right into it, or we can give a brief, you might want to choose this over that because of this.
We can give them a teaser for next episode, maybe?
Did I cut out?
Yeah.
Just for a second, just now.
Oh, I said, well, one's cooled by air and one's cooled by water. Next subject.
Okay, yeah, we'll hit on it this next episode. Look at that next episode for more details on spindles, especially because PWN is releasing his new spindle packages, and we want to make sure that you know which one to choose and why. With that, let's go hit sponsors.
That's right. Hey, so I want to give a giant thank you to Daniel from PWNCNC.com for sponsoring us. This episode has been brought to you by them. Check out their webpage, PWNCNC.com. They actually, I think if you're going to Facebook forums for PWNCNC as well, they have pictures of their new spindle mounts or new spindles that they have coming out. So Daniel just made a few announcements on there. But for 10% off all of your orders at PWNCNC.com, you're going to use promo code Sawdust Nation. All right. Next, we're going to thank Totalboat Epoxy for their support. And if you need some great epoxy, check them out, totalboat.com or at Totalboat on the Big IG. And if you need a 10% off promo code for them, shoot us a DM and we will get it to you. Last but not least, I want to thank Jtechphotonics for their continued support as well. And if you're looking for a diode laser, check them out, www.jtechphotonics.com. I said last but not least before, but I mean, thank you to the patrons for sure. You guys are doing a heck of a job, and hopefully the extra content we put out and the little knickknacks we send you guys make it all worth it for you guys, because we're definitely trying to put up and put out some good content for you. How do you get a hold of us, Josh?
Well, if you want to get a hold of us, you can always reach us at one or all four of our Instagram pages. Nick has an Instagram page, MPG Creations. You have one for Nap at Nap's Nutty Works LLC, and then one for myself, North Country Woodworking, and you can slide into our DMs at any time. And if you really want to get a hold of all three of us, there's two ways you could do that. One's the Instagram page for the podcast, which is Sawdust Nation Podcast, and that's on Instagram, and then the Sawdust Nation Podcast at gmail.com. And with that, with the Gmail, you can send us voicemails, you can send us topics or wherever you want to talk about, send us your latest project or what have you. And now that we have Nat back, he's going to explain why you should rate us an Apple Podcast.
Yeah, hey, so if you are out there listening on the old Apple Podcast, go ahead and give us 5 stars. If you don't give us 5 stars, well, you already know what's going to happen. That pesky cat's going to come get you. But if there's something you'd want to hear from us if you listen to Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us some feedback. Let us know, because if we don't know, we can't, tell you what's up. We can't, suit your needs, if you will. But yeah, that's what happens with the Apple Podcast.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Podcast.
Yes, the Apple Podcast. I just ran and got pizza. That's why I sound out of breath.
I ran and got a pizza and out of breath.
Yeah.
I got the meat sweats.
Last words there, Nap.
Yeah, what's your last words?
Last ever.
Whoa, that's dark. No, but hey, so we talked today, just kind of about getting on people as far as like, I know something as far as, handcraft, not handcrafted, whatever. Besides the point, when it comes to talking to other makers, don't get down on them. Encourage them, help them, because at the end of the day, that's the only way to make this community stronger. That's how we keep the craft alive, is by helping each other out, not putting each other down. So make sure you take care of each other and help each other out when you can. That's what I got. Nick, what you got?
Take care of yourselves and each other. Just don't be a doucher. Be cool. All right? Community over competition here.
Hell yeah.
That's right. And go to Veteran Woodco's page and go to his link tree and buy buy that t-shirt.
Page 3 all the way down to the bottom. Click it, it's $30.
It benefits individuals with disabilities that can't afford or don't have access to quality machinery that could potentially save limbs and limb and eyesight. So I think recently they just bought I think it was a paraplegic individual a saw stop because he was running some unsafe table saw on the ground, and it was absolutely it was a bad situation. So that community over competition, and that's just one of the examples of the things that they do. Check them out. Buy a t-shirt if you can. Support the cause. Josh?
Thanks for mentioning that, Nick. It's $30. How much do we spend on tools and other stuff in the garage? But yeah, buy a t-shirt. Help someone out. Thank you for listening to this week's podcast. We appreciate you listening, and we love it when you turn us on in the kitchen, in the backyard, in the living room, wherever you listen to your podcast, working out, in the bedroom, wherever we'll be whispering in your ears, talking about all the different types of wood we're working during the week. And Nap was wondering which episode he's on. Go ahead, go in the garage, make some sawdust, and be safe out there and help your fellow community where you can and how you can. Because as Nap said, that's the only way we can make it stronger. With that,
Sawdust Nation out.
Nation.
Ow! Such a delay. We really suck at this. Like, we need to pick this up. Oh man, that was a good episode.
It's funny because Nick was pretty quick to finish, like always.
Yeah, right.
I jumped the gun there, eh?